Hello everyone, I am Tessellating Hexagons, and now that I'm finally caught up on all of the stuff that I needed to do over the weekend but couldn't because I wasn't around, I can finally take a look at the song that Ukraine have selected for Eurovision 2016. They had their national final last night, or at least the final of it. No, they had the final and then the semi-finals. I really shouldn't be joking in this review. This should be serious review, because Ukraine have selected Susana Jamaladinova. I hope I'm stressing that right. I'd never know where to put the emphasis in these words, but her stage name is Jamala, and the song is entitled 1944. At least I'm assuming that I should say it in English, because the song is in English, but the chorus is in Crimean Tatar. So perhaps I should say 1944 in Crimean Tatar, but I don't know how to say that. So I'm going to assume that it's just 1944 because it's in reference to the year. So what are my first thoughts about this song then? Well, this song, it exists at the absolute zenith of dark, calculated, and emotionally intense, and given the subject matter, that comes as no surprise at all. From what I've heard, it's inspired by Jamala's great-grandmother's diaries of living in Crimea when Stalin was in power, or something like that. I'm no historian, I'm no expert, so I can't talk about that period of history with any confidence at all, nor do I know the background of this song particularly clearly. I know it's got something to do with Jamala's family history, but it's a period of history that I'm not familiar with in a part of the world whose history I'm not particularly familiar with. Which isn't deliberate ignorance on my part, it's just I haven't studied history, so I wouldn't know. I do know, however, that a substantial number of people in the Eurovision fandom have cried out in protest against this song, citing it as political, but I recommend that you just read the lyrics. There's nothing deliberately inflammatory in there. It's no more political than, say, Hungary's entry last year. If the song were to come under fire, no pun intended, then they could just present the lyrics and say, no, read this, we aren't attacking anyone in particular with this song, we're just protesting war. And that's a perfectly acceptable thing to sing about at Eurovision. So what are the good points about this song then? Well, for one, this song does not mess around, and it does not sugarcoat. Jamala has a message, and she is not going to dress it up in a peaceful, bubblegum pop sort of way. No, indeed. This song takes a minimalist approach to instrumentation done in an absolutely exemplary way, to such a point that the most powerful instrument in the song is Jamala's voice itself. And if that's not a really powerful metaphor for what she's trying to convey, I don't know what is. Now, there's one part of the song that really, really drives this home. It's about 2 minutes in, I think, and it really makes me appreciate the aesthetic of this song. The music quietens down. There's the sound of gunfire, or possibly rain, I may have misheard. I think that's just in the live performance. But it's at that point in the song, she starts vocalizing without any particular words. It sounds like she's crying. Within the context of the song, she is. It's just she's not actually crying when she records it, or performs it, or whatever. In the live performance in particular, this is an insanely powerful and compelling part of the song. Like I said, she isn't actually crying, but she sounds like it, and that's enough. But in the live performance on top of this, you got the sound of gunfire in the background, and she's rocking her arms, even though they're empty. And that's when it hits home. That vocalization isn't just her being a musical instrument. It's a lullaby for the child she isn't holding, both literally and metaphorically for the subject matter of the song, for the land that she's lamenting that has been lost, or what she's trying to say. And then straight after that little point, certainly in the live performance, she looks straight up, like up at the camera, which is above her, and she screams. She's screaming skyward. That's a trope in films, and she's managed to incorporate that into a musical performance. It's deep, it's meaningful, and it does not pull any punches. Bravo, Ukraine. Now, as for the bad points, I feel like I need to stress this in particular with this song, which is kind of a negative point in itself, albeit the fault of the fandom rather than the song. When I say bad points, that's just either constructive criticism or minor details that I've picked up on based on my own opinion, and I offer these for every single song I review. I'm not making any political statements, I'm not doing anything like that. I'm just trying to offer a balanced review to let you know what are the plus points of a song, what are the minus points of a song. Draw your own conclusions, I won't tell you what to think. That's why I do this. So let's not overreact when I give some criticism here. So my first issue, apart from having to give that little explanation, is just how minimalist the instrumentation is. Now don't get me wrong, it is a brilliant example of the genre, but as a Eurovision song, I got nearly 2 minutes into the song before I realized, oh, it sounds like it's building up to this dramatic chorus, but it isn't. It's just staying, like, once it starts, that's as gone as it goes, if you know what I mean. So while it is a very effective use of minimalism, as a Eurovision song, it has a little bit of the disappointment effect, just in the same vein as, oh, Celasu wrote Belgium's song this year, or, oh, Anouk wrote the Netherlands song last year, so it must be in their style of music, and then it isn't. So it's failing to meet expectations that realistically it's my fault for putting up in the first place, so it's not the song's fault. And besides, by not having this big, sweeping chorus, it's staying true to what the song is trying to convey, and I applaud that. But as a Eurovision song, it might still disappoint some people. They might say, oh, I don't like this song because it never gets going. In a similar vein to that, Jamala's voice, beautiful, poignant, and powerful. But I can almost guarantee, as I say these words right now, as you're watching this, as you're listening to this, someone will be on Facebook typing a post about how they think, oh, it's just tuneless wailing, it's making my ears bleed. It's not. But some people might decide to say that anyway, because they think that a voice should sing words rather than melodies. There really are some people as judgmental as that out there. Now, how do I rate it out of 10? Sincerely, I'm very conflicted about this one. I have a lot of feelings about this song. As a state of affairs in the world, it more than does its part. As a piece of emotional narrative art, it impresses thoroughly and absolutely. But as a Eurovision song, if I were to consider it just on completely superficial details, if I were to just compare it to other Eurovision songs trying to do Eurovision, it comparatively falls a little bit short. And so overall, I award this song 8 out of 10. If the live performance in the national final is anything to judge by, this song is going to have a huge impact in Stockholm. And I do really appreciate every last artistic and aesthetic choice behind this one, particularly the lullaby scream section I highlighted before. And I am a fan of her decision to include lyrics in Crimean Tatar, both for their relevance to the story of the song, and in just more generally in the name of broadening cultural horizons. Its only shortcoming for me is that it lacks a little bit of the marketability that comes as part and parcel of the average Eurovision song. But I recognise that she was never going for that in the first place. That would be like going into McDonald's and then complaining that they don't have pizza. They're not a pizza place. So this song, it doesn't sound like a cliche pop song because it's not trying to be. It's telling a story. It's conveying a message. It's not there just to entertain for entertainment's sake. And she'd never sacrifice any element of the song in exchange for that effect. And so I respect her so much for that. Now, compared to last time, well, it's impossible to compare this with Ukraine's last attempt. I could make a joke about how you can't compare it to last year because they didn't take part last year, but this song deserves to be treated with dignity, so I won't even bother going there. So in 2014, TikTok. It was a fun, throwaway pop song with no ulterior motives, no backstory besides, it's just there to entertain. It's there for your entertainment and no other reason. This song is more or less the exact opposite. It's deep and it's meaningful. It's a piece of art that is meant to be taken seriously. You're supposed to pay attention to the story of it. You're supposed to enter its world and listen to what she's saying rather than just bop along to the music. Which I suppose makes this something of a lasagna song in my books, which just means that you might not like it if you're not in the right mood to listen to it. Honestly, I would struggle to pick one song over the other because they're both so wildly different. TikTok is fun and harmlessly entertaining, but 1944 is intense and sincere and powerful. The only way I can justify picking one over the other is to compare them on the one single thing they have in common. Ukrainian entries at Eurovision. In short, which do I think is the better Eurovision entry? Whilst 1944 does everything it sets out to do, and brilliantly so, I think TikTok is better at being a Eurovision song, which just means that it's better suited for the Eurovision environment and nothing else. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a better song. I just think that Maria Yaremchuk's song was more suitable for the Eurovision stage, but that doesn't really say anything about the song itself, because as I said, TikTok was throwaway happy fun time pop, and 1944 is a serious, severe, I have a message kind of... I can only really describe it as art. So while it's not what you've come to expect from Eurovision, that doesn't mean it's bad. So, will it qualify? My first reflex is to say probably. Ukraine has never failed to qualify from the semi-finals, and the only time they've not been in the final, apart from before they debuted, is last year, when they just weren't in the competition outright. I don't see the song bucking that trend anytime soon, given how powerful and professional Jamala's voice and stage presence are. she's not going to perform badly live, for instance, so she's not going to leave any bad impressions. You know, people are going to get what they pay for with this song, as it were. They're going to receive from the song exactly what the song sets out to give, no more, no less. My line of thinking, as a result, is that this will score really well with the juries, because they're going to appreciate it for the piece of theatre that it is. The question mark comes from the public vote, and because of the way they've changed the voting procedure now, that means that the public vote matters more than ever. Well, all the votes matter more than ever. I suppose it depends on how well she conveys her message on night, how well the live choreography, if it can be called choreography, is, and how well she hits those notes, because I don't doubt that she will hit them. It's just a matter of how impressively will she do that. And also, more importantly, what part of the song will they use in the recap? Because they could portray this as the powerful and touching audio-visual experience that it is, or they could deliberately sell it short as a repetitive Eastern European ballad. Such is the power of media. And SVT knows how much power they have. So they could put a crazy spin on this song just from those 20-ish seconds. I suppose, really, it's a matter of, will SVT want this to qualify? But if it's going based on the song and its aesthetic alone, then this is a guaranteed finalist. We'll just see how the public feels about it. So I will say, good luck to you, Ukraine. It's really nice to have you back in the competition. We'll see where this ends up, because I think you're going to turn a lot of heads, and a lot of people may well be left in tears, but for all the right reasons. So we'll see what happens in Stockholm. See you then.